So, Tony Josh, before we do our wild moments for this episode, we got our first email from a listener, and it was really encouraging. And I would like to read parts of it. So I'm going to do that, and then we can respond accordingly. I want you to know how much I love this podcast. I look forward to listening to every episode, and every time I do, it seems to be something I need to hear myself and makes me think of my own experiences with such things. Episode 3, where you talked about death, is still my absolute favorite. I have experimented with gender identity and expression many times in the past, all in a desire to find myself. While some have done so to find themselves within community, I found that doing so actually made me feel less authentic. Yet, when I took the time to find who I was for myself, that person of integrity began to shape itself. I recognized myself in the mirror, if that makes sense. I love that you describe the divine masculine and the divine feminine and how it dwells within everything. And in this, everyone can take something from this podcast. I think about my wild moments, the moments that are most freeing. I remember watching my dad work on his car when I was 3, holding his flashlight for him, seeing the axle grease on his hands, and remembering how it reminded me of how I played in the dirt. Memories of fishing with my family, catching a fish, taking it off the hook, only to have its fins cut me. As a child, I was frightened, but as an adult, I look at acts like fishing as such a bonding experience between us and nature, life and death. It's only fitting that the fish cut me as I cut it. I look at such situations with awe and reverence these days, and a mutual respect.
I still find myself difficult to listen to, and I think that's probably always going to be the case. Um, so it is encouraging to get positive feedback, that people are finding what we're talking about to be genuine and interesting. Both those things are important. And what Avery was saying there about um, thinking through things around masculinity, femininity, gender identity, and what all those things mean and how they play out in our lives in this 2022, when it seems like the pace of change in how we're thinking about these things is insanely fast. It That's the piece of that email that really speaks to me as um, heartening. That is something, as a 3 cis dudes, with wives and children, who in a lot of ways look pretty conventional. I know for me, I'm wanting to take this project on with the wilds in the woods and what healthy masculinity looks like, uh, from an angle that honors and say engages with those questions our society is dealing with in an open, genuine way from our perspective as kind of in that respect, like fairly normal dudes. So I really appreciate that, Avery.